That's the last thing any woman wants to hear when they feel like they've tried everything and nothing is working. And they feel like, oh, maybe I don't have enough willpower and I need to dig deeper. Finally, just feel, okay, there's something else going on here, and go to your practitioner, and then they say, that's just you're old. Like,
Yeah.
nothing could feel like more of a kick in the gut than that. And especially when you feel like you've done everything. And that truly is the wrong answer.
Electricast. Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boat, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is Midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. Today's conversation is for every woman who has ever been told this is just part of getting older and felt in her gut that there has to be more. Today, I'm really happy to welcome my friend and colleague, Laura McLennan. She is a biologist, holistic nutritionist, and founder of HealthScope. With over 20 years in biology and 6 years in clinical practice, Laura specializes in helping midlife women reset their metabolism, balance hormones, and actually feel like themselves again. Her work is rooted in science using blood labs and personalized nutrition. But what I love most is how she translates all of that into real, doable shifts for women who are tired of guessing and ready for answers. Laura, I am so glad you're here today. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It is so good to be here.
All right, so let's start with that phrase because, Laura, I am hearing this from women more and more. They go to see their healthcare practitioners and they are told, this is just part of getting older. There's nothing you can do about it. Suck it up. So why is that the wrong answer?
It is so frustrating. That's the last thing any woman wants to hear when they feel like they've tried everything and nothing is working. And they feel like, maybe I don't have enough willpower and I need to dig deeper and do it. Finally, just say like, okay, no, maybe there's something else going on here, and go to your practitioner, and then they say, that's just you're old. Like, nothing could feel like more of a kick in the gut than that. And especially when you feel like you've done everything. And that truly is the wrong answer, because yes, it is naturally a part of aging as a woman. We all go through menopause. That isn't something we can avoid. Some go through it a little harder than others. Hearing and saying there's nothing you can do about it and just suck it up is so wrong. There is so much that we can do to support our bodies mentally, physically, emotionally when we're going through menopause. What I do specifically is looking at their blood labs and their blood biochemistry, and seeing what foods can we put in there in the mix that are really going to help support these women on a functional level and a cellular level, to help, because it's not all about just shifting hormones and estrogen. Menopause is like increased insulin resistance, it's higher inflammation, it's elevated cortisol, there's a lot that's going on. There's changes in that fat distribution, there's disrupted sleep and circadian rhythms, there's an altered gut microbiome. And so those are all things that we can investigate, and choosing the right foods at the right time of day and the right proportions can help shift a lot of that. And that's what I like to do, to just help women feel like they're getting their life back. And it's really empowering when I give them a food list and say, here, let's incorporate these. And they can go out and actually include all of the specific foods that are going to help support them. And they start to feel better. And their
Yeah.
quality of life shifts. It's really life changing to feel empowered that they get their life back.
Yeah. And it's one of the issues, and I talk about it a lot, that when we so segment our healthcare, that's where we run into these issues. Because it's one thing for a doctor to be overwhelmed and not have the answers for everything, right? Like our general practitioners, we know, are fully overwhelmed. They have to overbook themselves, and it's not possible for one person to hold all information. But where I get really frustrated is that instead of saying, I don't know the answer to this question, but this is who I can send you to. And that can be a range of people. It could start with someone like me, who is a menopause consultant who can do all the education components and then really get into that person's story. I spend a whole hour with you. Your doctor gets 10 minutes, right?
Right. Yes.
So then really getting to the root of what is it that you need? And then I can refer you to folks like you who specialize in getting to the root problem in nutrition, because menopause care is not hormone therapy alone.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. There's so much more to it than just, your hormone replacement therapy. And sometimes that's all women know. They don't know that there's so many other elements. Making sure that someone like yourself can give them all of the tools to say, this is where you need to go to next. This is the conversation that you want to have. These are the questions that you want to ask. This is the person you want to go to for this. It's a lot more than just the doctor saying, well, yeah, let's try HRT and see what happens, and then leave them out to pasture. That's the other frustrating part, is that, yeah, women will come to me and go, yeah, I've been on HRT for a year, two. Like, are they monitoring you? Are they checking those levels? Are they, checking in with your symptoms? Has anything changed?
Yes,
Just
I know.
those are things that,
And it's,
yeah,
yeah, like everything is so individual. There
yeah,
needs to
yeah.
be that additional follow-up care. There needs to be like, some people will say, I am so exhausted. I can't even get myself to whatever it is for them. Right. So sometimes hormone therapy is a place to start because it will start to level out their system. It will start to give them some energy back so that they at least get to a place where they can now go, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more in my body. So now I can start resistance training.
Right. Yes.
Now I can start looking at my nutrition, what's happening, what changes do I make, right?
Right.
Now I can start looking at my sleep routines.
Yeah.
Now I can start looking at my stress management. But it's not, I keep saying this, it is not an either or situation. It is both and.
Yes. And those are the pillars that I incorporate to every single one of my clients: nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress management. And those are all so intricately tied together. And when we start to elevate their nutrition and start to do some cellular healing at a very fundamental level, and then we start seeing some changes in their insulin resistance. And then we start seeing some changes in their cortisol sensitivity. And then we start seeing some changes in their circadian rhythms, and their sleep cycle is improving. And then they're able to really handle their stress load at work. And word finding isn't as difficult. Their focus is a little stronger, and they're able to incorporate some strength training, increase their metabolic rate. And so when they get that little bit of energy edge, yes, they're able to then implement a lot of those other pillars of their health in a whole package.
Yeah. So I want to dive into what is happening with our metabolism, because one of the things I hear so often, and I am going through it myself, right? All the things I used to do that worked aren't working anymore. And I feel like I am in a body that I don't recognize. So, what is it that is happening with our metabolism at this stage? And what are we getting wrong?
That is a really good question, and such a common thought for women, because they do come to me saying, I'm doing everything. I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating well. I'm trying to strength train. I'm trying to do all the things. I'm running on the treadmill. And I just kind of peel it back and go, it's really not about working harder. It's just about working smarter, working about giving your body what your body needs, not what it used to need when you were 20 or 30, but what it really needs now. And when we look at the body and its biochemistry, so looking and diving into the blood values and doing that analysis, and then seeing where we're lacking, what nutrients you're lacking, and then matching that with the very specific foods that are going to provide that foundation of healing. And then we start to see, because in menopause, really it's not just that estrogen hormone. There's a lot of shifts that are happening there. It's just naturally you're having that increase in insulin resistance, and you are definitely going through some higher cortisol sensitivity. And we do experience that loss of muscle mass. We do feel those disruptions in our sleep, and we have an altered gut microbiome. Those are just fundamental things that are changing as we shift, and that lower estrogen is being experienced, and the progesterone changes as well. So I think the biggest driver is in the weight gain is that insulin sensitivity. So bringing that insulin sensitivity back and getting the body to be metabolically sensitive again, so that the body is not just burning sugar and then you're craving more sugar to burn sugar. You're actually getting into that fat burning. So we really have to get rid of that insulin resistance.
So I want
And
to jump
that's a
in
big
here for a
part of it.
second. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure people understand like because we hear insulin resistance a lot. And what does it mean when there's insulin resistance happening? And how is it impacting how our bodies are functioning?
So insulin is kind of like that key to the door in your cells. When we eat anything, it doesn't matter what it is. Insulin is triggered. And insulin is a hormone that allows us to metabolize sugar and put it into the right places. We're not expending energy and enough energy to have to replace those energy stores, which is the glucose. Then the body has to store it somewhere. And so we store it in fat cells when those other energy stores are full. And the key the role that insulin plays is getting the glucose into the cells. And when there's that disruption in menopause and things start to shift and your glucose stores are full and it has to go somewhere, we have but we're constantly eating, and when energy starts to be depleted, we feel like, okay, let's just have a cup of coffee, a donut. Like your body's just chemically wired to crave those drinks that are going to stimulate us and bring us more energy again. And so as that starts to happen and we start to shift, I'm naturally going to grab more coffee or that donut or that baked goods or muffin or something that's just going to give us that quick energy fix, because it converts to glucose, and glucose is our energy and it gives us that little spike. So then your insulin is getting triggered. It's trying to do its job. It's trying to get the glucose in the cells. And all of a sudden we take care of all that sugar, and there's still insulin there. And the cells just say, stop, please, I've got enough sugar. And it kind of shuts out the insulin. And it just says, no, we're too busy here. We've got enough. Let's just stop. So it keeps the door locked, and the insulin's key doesn't work anymore. So the cells are resisting that insulin. And now there's too much insulin, and your body just isn't responding to the sugar influx efficiently anymore. So now you're insulin resistance, but you're still producing insulin because you're still eating sugar and you're still eating food. And no matter what you eat, your insulin's going to get triggered. Sugar or piece of
Right.
chicken, it's still going to
Yeah.
you're still going to have insulin no matter what we eat. So all of a sudden, we have this hormone insulin that just isn't doing its job very well. So we have to really peel that back and go, okay, let's just correct that insulin's job at the very basic. That's the first job we have to do. That's what, when I put the nutrition plans together, when I get the nutrition plans, that's the very first thing we look at, is just making sure that we can get the body into that fat burning again and get insulin working well. And that metabolic flexibility that I was saying, that's where we get the body, instead of relying on burning sugar and getting its energy that way, we get it into that fat burning so that the metabolism is actually functioning more efficiently to fuel the body in a way that's going to just, give you that energy. It's going to create a little more mental focus and better sleep cycles. And so at a very primary fundamental level, it's getting the right foods in the mix to correct and getting them in the right proportion. Enough protein versus complex carbohydrates versus starches versus fruits and oils and fats, and just making sure everything is in a really good proportion and good timing at the right time of day and enough food at once.
Right. I'm gonna hop in here for a second because this is the space where people start going, and I'm out, right?
Yeah,
So
totally. glazing
Because
over.
there's such a great analogy that really helped me understand insulin resistance in a different way. So cells are literally becoming resistant to, and that's having impact on our energy. We've got stores of insulin now with not the right places to go.
Right.
And then we go and we find someone who can help us figure out what's going on in the body. So conversation happens, you're in insulin resistance. There's hope here. We absolutely can make a difference. And then we hear quantity, we hear different types of food, we hear different types of day, and it becomes like, man, I am barely making it through the day as it is. How are you expecting me to do this? So, how do you help people take this information in a way that allows them to do like we're going to one step at a time. So what's and I know every person is different and you make specialized, like individualized plans based on each person's body chemistry. But what is one thing that generally tends to be a place where people can start that will actually make a difference?
I would say the best place to start is don't skip meals. Don't starve your body. This is an analogy I use time and time again, and every single day I say it. Would you ever expect to put your car on the freeway, the highway, the 401, and expect to get to Montreal from London on an empty tank of gas? And yet you're curious as to why you got stopped on the off ramp and never even got on the highway because your
Yeah.
tank was empty.
And we have been so conditioned into this as Gen X women in particular. My husband and I right now are on a Beverly Hills 90210 rewatch train
I
situation.
love it. That
It is. It's amazing.
so fun.
And I am realizing how much narrative created in both good and not good ways. I want to be clear about that. Like, there are some really powerful things where I'm like, I had no idea that came from the gospel of Beverly Hills 90210, but there it is. And it's embedded in my body in good ways. But the same is true on the other side, because the number of times they talk about calories, how they're eating, what they're eating, how their like identity is so tied to what they look like. And listening to the women who played those characters now, also they're reflective of that. But when it's so deeply embedded in us, calorie restriction,
Drives me nuts.
right? Yeah.
But just simply thinking about that, how can you function when your tank is empty?
Such
So
a good
you're
analogy.
going at a very primitive level. Okay, we have to hibernate all winter because there's no animals to hunt, there's no berries to pick. So your body goes into hold on to everything mode so we can simply survive till spring when the berries come out and the animals are moving around and we can go hunting again. And then we have some fuel and we're fueling the body again and we can run around and we can go hunting. If you're not putting any fuel in the tank, you're really going to hold on to everything. And it's just counterproductive. You work harder and nothing's shifting. Well, nothing's shifting because your body is simply trying to hold on to everything it can just to survive. And so fueling, just giving the body some fuel, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's so funny because most people, well, to people who don't come to me and say, oh, well, I only eat dinner. And then they start to eat and they say, oh my God, I've never ate so much food in my life and dropped weight and felt so good. Yes, we are ingrained. There is a point in time where there is a balance with calories in and calories out. And we do have to focus on that. But it's a very specific time and place. And it's usually for women who are training hard for a very specific reason, whether it's, marathons, triathlons, some kind of high rocks or, something that's very specific. And we really have to fuel the body and more carefully and really have to look at calories in, calories out. So it's not like there's a time and place that we're never ever going to look at calories in, but there is a time and place for it. But yes, that old school way of feeling like calorie restriction is the only way to feel and look your best.
Yeah, it breaks my heart when I hear people say, "Oh, I only eat dinner." And they say it with such conviction, and I just think how disconnected. So this is where everything is so intertwined, right? An identity that tells us so much about what is feeling threatened, right? Identity is feeling threatened, but
Yeah.
how disconnected you have had to become from your body to only eat once a day. And I would imagine if said to a woman who only ate dinner, I want you to write down how many times you think about food during the day,
Good Lord.
right?
Thousands. Like every minute between every conversation would be thinking about food.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no question.
And how
And then
much?
fueling with coffee and caffeine.
Yes, I know.
It's sad. It's really, really sad. And that conditioning is there.
Yes, it is. And it's
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about this stage in life is that when you decide, I deserve to feel better, we get to start rewriting these narratives for ourselves. And if we treat the messages, if we treat the symptoms coming from our bodies as messages,
Oh, 100%.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that is the one thing that I do tell women is like, those are really strong cues and really important messages. Let's pay attention to them. And so that's a lot of that key information that I take in as part of their health history. Tell me more and dig deeper and really pay attention to those signals. Because it's not that my body's broken. It's more like, no, that's really important information. Let's talk about that. And it does reveal a lot of really critical baseline information that we can use to help them feel better.
Yes. And at this point, people who are listening, I want you really to like hear and understand you can feel better. These messages that you're getting about like this is just how it is now, that is really not true. There really are ways that you can reclaim how you are feeling and feel better than you have perhaps ever in your life, especially if you've been constantly running these scripts about food. My body would never let me because I've never been officially diagnosed, but I'm fairly certain I'm hypoglycemic because if I go for a certain amount of time without eating, I visibly shake. And when I was working with other people, everyone would always laugh because at 11:30 like, Lisa had to eat,
Right.
and everybody knew it
Yeah.
because at that point, I would have breakfast at, like, 6 a.m. So, work out, have breakfast between, like, 6 and 6:30. So, by 11:30, was a long stretch for me.
Yeah, that's a long stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, I would start to get hangry. Like, there
Yeah.
were obvious signs where sometimes, like, my girlfriend Amy would look at me and go, "You need to eat. It's lunchtime, right?" Like, "Yes, let's go."
Yeah, and that's where it's really important. So that's really important information. And I would look at that and go, okay, well, what are you having for breakfast? Let's look at that. And maybe that needs a little tweak because especially if you're working out at that time of the day too. So that first meal of the day is really, really, really critical for you. And then lunchtime. Lunchtime also is going to be really important and what you're fueling your body with at that time. Another really just kind of hot tip, always have your protein first and have protein with every meal like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and have a few bites of protein first. That can help just counter that insulin spike that's going to happen no matter what we eat. So having just a few bites of protein. And whatever that is, maybe it's cheese, chicken, meat, fish, yogurt, nuts, seeds, legumes like chickpeas, lentils, like anything, whatever it is, just have a few bites of that first.
One of the things I've started doing is just having hard-boiled eggs in the fridge so that yeah,
Such a good one.
yeah.
Such a good one.
So I like add it to my lunch and my salad at lunch, or yeah, if I'm feeling like I'm really hungry in the moment, just peel an egg off and off you
Such
go.
a good
Right? It
one.
makes
Yes.
it makes such a difference, and it's so easy. Like I boil a dozen eggs at the beginning of the week, and
Yeah.
they're in the fridge ready whenever I need them.
So smart. Yeah. Just to have that grab and go, something that's easy so that your knee jerk isn't something that's equally as easy, but in a package, the crackers, chips, whatever, something you can grab that's super easy, replacing that with something that's equally as easy. And an egg is such a good one. So good. Good for you.
One thing I wanted to ask you about because I get this question a lot is intermittent fasting.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there's lots of research in lots of ways around intermittent fasting, and it can have some specific impacts for the perimenopausal and menopausal body. So I'd love to hear how do you talk to folks about intermittent fasting?
It does have its benefits and it does have its place. But if you think about a, a typical fast from, say, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., or maybe 7, 8, 9, like a 12, 15-hour fast is significant. That is an intermittent fast. You are giving your body that chance to reset. Sometimes it's even more beneficial. Some women do find that pushing that fast to like more of a 18-hour, it's a big window when you frame it that way. That's a fast that's pretty significant. So, putting it to 2 meals a day, sort of one meal to get your breaking your fast and then a second meal later on in the day. But making sure that those meals are substantial. Like it's not a little meal to break the fast. It has to be substantial and not just, coffee and a cheese and cracker or something.
Yeah. And because it's making sure that you're actually getting enough food to fuel your body. And when you
Hmm.
are in perimenopause, it's the mirror to puberty,
Yes.
right? Your body is going through the same level of shift and change in perimenopause as it did at puberty. And think about how much you needed to eat as a teenager. Right. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
exactly the same, but there's
No, it's
that
so
level
good.
of
Yeah.
energetic demand on your body, and so
Yes.
it's so key that you are fueling it in the ways that it needs to be fueled. And it can be challenging doing that if you are doing really long fasts and potentially only doing 2 meals a day.
Right. And it is so true. You said something so critical in that, yes, the energy demands on the body during menopause are massive. And if we just simply don't put gas in the tank, expect you to get out of bed and conduct yourself in a professional manner that you do, because if you have a career and you have home life and professional life and a personal life and do all the things that you like to do on an empty tank. How do we then push ourselves in the gym or try to build muscle? Because that's an important piece when it comes to, sarcopenia. So that's just naturally what's going to happen. So to keep our bones healthy and strong and keep yourself just standing upright. I mean, geez, I've gone into a big old tangent there, but just
No, but
on a
it's
very
true.
fundamental level, yeah, if you're just having that mindset, really, that, the way you've always done it just doesn't fit this stage in life. You're not at home in your body anymore. And to bring yourself back to feeling good again. And he said, what if somebody never felt good? Like, what if somebody didn't know what good feels like? And you just don't know what you don't know. And then all of a sudden, you give them the right tools and fill their toolbox. And all of a sudden, they have a renewed life, a new lease on life, and a new just outlook on life. And he said, that's like life changing. And that can happen in our 50s, like in the prime of our life.
Yes, it
That's
can.
really exciting.
It is exciting, and I'm glad you brought that up because it is a process of rewiring that story because we are not going back, right? Your body is
Right,
not your body will never be the same as it was.
right. Yes.
So it's the rewiring of it's not that I want to go back. I like the way you said it's that I want to feel good. I want to feel good in the body I have now. I want it to function as best as it can so that I feel good, so that I feel strong, so that I have that muscle strength, bone health as deposits in my health bank. That
Right.
Right, so that when I'm 90, like, that is my main motivation right now. When I don't wanna lift up a heavy weight, I go, "90-year-old Lisa will thank you. 90-year-old Lisa will thank you for picking up this dumbass weight right now."
Right. And that's where I tell my women, your why is so important. It is the driver, and to think very carefully about your why and be very clear, crystal clear about what is your why and put it everywhere. Paste it on every surface that you can see every day, whatever reminder that takes. I mean, I have them everywhere, but I'm with you. Every time I'm picking up that goddamn weight and I'm screaming and I'm cussing and I'm swearing and I'm grunting, this is terrible, but I picture my mom, my
Yes.
90-year-old mom, who, bless her, I love her dearly, but I do not want that in my life. I do not want to be physically unable to do the things that I want to do that are in my bucket list, that in this prime of my life, it's time to check those boxes off my list. And you also made me think of something else too while you were talking. I'm like, you know what? I bet you there's a lot of grieving that women go through as their body is changing, and that grieving of what their body was and what it is now. And that's a really big one to unpack.
It's huge. And I think even an additional layer on that is grieving that I didn't love the body I had that was so amazing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is kind of a funny story, but my best friend, we were talking about this a while ago, maybe a month ago, and she's like, I look back at all these pictures of us as teenagers, and she's like, why didn't I wear the dress without the bra?
Yes, I know. I have to say, it's one of the biggest, like when people complain about the way girls dress in particularly, I want to say, you know what? If they feel good in their body, they're only
Yeah.
going to look like that for so long. Same. I wish I had worn the bikini when
Yes.
I wish I had been able to look at my body as the like miraculous machine that it absolutely is and was. But instead, we've talked about this, we were so trained to look for the
Yeah.
flaws and
Yes.
for what was wrong instead of appreciating the miracle that this body is and being able to dress in a way that is like, my body is a miracle. Look at this.
Yeah. And you know what? That is just a really interesting, very interesting, because that is how I focus on my health and wellness now. And it wasn't always that way. I'm a mom, an entrepreneur, a scientist, a biologist, a business owner. I'm all those things. But what I really started to look at was stripping all that away when I got breast cancer. So in 2020, ended up with breast cancer. And that being almost the biggest gift in my life, going through the surgery, the chemo, the radiation, and all the healing that went along with that. And luckily enough, I had just before that happened, finished my nutritionist training because I wasn't always a nutritionist. I was a biologist, and that's probably a whole other podcast in itself. I got out of that and started to study nutrition. And so during my healing process, I came away with a renewed sense of value in my body. And it's no longer about how it looks. It's more a value of feeling well and strong and living present in a moment by moment. And I think just feeling the value of being in a body that feels strong and well supported for my health and wellness and longevity. And that has been a big shift. And that just, graciously happened in the very big kick in the teeth that I got when I did go through cancer. But I think I would not have had that change in perspective had that not happened. I think I still would have been, driven in that old school way of thinking, of that it's all about how I look and nothing about how I feel. And so that's where that kind of calorie in, calorie out mindset kind of came flashing back into those early 20 those early 20s where, yeah, it's all about how does it look.
Yeah.
And that is rampant in women. And of course, social media, as we all know, doesn't help with any of that.
No, it doesn't. And it's pouring gasoline on that fire in so many ways that we're starting to see play out in really dangerous ways around expectations of what bodies should, I'm using air quotes here,
Good. Right.
should look like. And it's almost a must. Like there is this, it's seeming even more specific around this is what you must look like.
It's so dangerous.
And I'd love you to talk about the long-term impacts of that, because what we are doing in our teens and our 20s has long-term health impacts on where we maybe have to start our journey over again, and how it might be different if we are feeding our bodies in ways that are thinking about longevity when we're young.
That's interesting because I have a couple of clients now that they're not menopausal clients. They're young women that have pushed their body so hard. They've lost their periods. They're so confused with how their body is responding, and they're frustrated. And now they start to have a very disconnected perception of the reason why we eat food. And it's so dangerous, but it's a very dangerous place for these women to be. And they understand now that it's disordered eating, and it's fueled with how do I look, not how I feel and how I can function and how strong I can be or how far I can run, but it's you can't function, you can't run, you can't push harder, you can't lift harder if the tank is empty. And so it's bringing that realization to the forefront, and having that awareness. And also, my daughter is an athlete. Well, she plays varsity volleyball, and she understands the value of eating well. But the 99% of the team will look at her and going, "Oh my God, you're eating again?" There's Grace with her this meal and that meal and this container and that container, and sitting in the change room eating away. And she's the captain. She's the strongest player on the team. She knows and understands the value, how important it is to be an athlete. You can't expend all the energy if your tank is empty. So
Yeah.
yeah, yes, it is dangerous. It is disconnected. It is disordered. How do we fix that? For the love of God, could we please just take away this obsession with how we look?
Yes, and
And
being
just
small and being as small as possible. And that's because it's so important for people to know that if the tank is empty, going back to the body being a brilliant machine, it will find whatever food source it can to keep going. So that means that it will leach from your bones. It will leach
your
from your
muscles.
muscle, right? So
Yes,
then
yes.
when you are in perimenopause, bone health is going to be a significant struggle. If bone density has started to decline early in life, that increased bone loss is going to have even more impact.
So you're just at risk of getting in and out of your car in the winter.
Yes.
Just the slip hazard is there, and like you're going to break a bone. And then what are you going to check off your bucket list then if you're in
Yeah.
crutches and you've got casts all the time? And yeah, so thinking ahead to how your liver health, your bone health, your muscle health, your organ system, your digestion, all of that is at risk if you're really not treating your body like the true machine that it is early on in your 20s and 30s. Starving your body is really not the key. And it's just, yeah.
So, what's one thing someone can take away right now and start doing to either eat in a way that will fuel your body to feel good, especially if you're somebody who's been in this very like a mindset of my body is changing, I feel like I don't recognize it, and I need to change this. And so we're in this place of like dysregulation. How do I make this change? And we want to make sure that people are making a change that actually makes them feel good. What's one thing they can start to do as soon as they finish listening?
Thing. Can I give you two?
Yes, please.
I would say the first thing is please drink your water. Please, please, please hydrate the body. It is, you know, most critical importance to just drink your water. Replace, first thing in the morning, drink a glass of water before your coffee. If you could just do that one simple switch, or switch out one of the sodas for water during the day, and just don't overhaul it. Don't try to make a grand overhaul in one afternoon. Just try to incorporate one small shift. And if it's just having a glass of water before your cup of coffee in the morning, big win. And then just start small, make small changes. And I'd say the other one being just pay attention to what you're eating. Pay attention to the amount of baked goods. It's actually probably going to be alarming when we look at it was just a croissant or a muffin or cookies or a cracker or a piece of bread, or that refined white flour it will convert to sugar so quickly. So if you can think about, and I know if I say complex carbs and protein, the glazing over the eyeballs happens. So I just want to simplify it and say, try to make sure that you have balanced meals and 3 meals a day, and just try that and see how your energy and focus and just how your level of hunger changes. So when I say that, I mean like have breakfast and don't snack in between. Have lunch and don't snack in between until you have dinner. But that means they have to be really good, well-balanced meals. You can't just wake up in the morning and have a coffee and a muffin. because that muffin is just going to metabolize really quickly. You're going to have a sugar spike and your sugar's going to get, and an hour later, you're going to be hungry again. So when I say that, just try to think about incorporating protein to every meal, because vegetables, and that's generally there for most people. They're usually very conscious about, oh yeah, I eat really well. I eat vegetables every day. Try to balance that with protein. And protein could be cheese, yogurt, nuts, seeds, chickpeas, hummus, chicken, fish, meat. It can be a lot of different things. And please don't wake up in the morning and have a bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios and milk and a coffee. Okay, now I'm done.
Yeah. Okay.
That was 3 things. But anyway, there was a lot of things.
So water, pay attention to what you're eating, and make sure you have protein with every meal.
Yeah, protein with
Yes.
every meal. Yeah, yeah. Because that'll keep you satiated between your meals. And it will reduce that energy, that sugar spike and tank, and get you craving more food and more sugar to do it again, to do it and keep doing it. And that's when we get into that snacking, and it doesn't stop. So a few bites of protein first, have protein with every meal, and drink your water.
That is very practical and doable advice that people can take away. So this is what I want women to hear. Your body isn't failing you. It's asking you for something different. And when we stop forcing it to behave like it did at 25 and start listening to what it needs now, that's when we start to see a shift. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, Laura. All of Laura's contact information will be in the show notes. If you feel resonant with her, make sure you check her out. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at @lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electric acid.